Well, it looks like I got the the horizontal framing correct this time. I've been experimenting doing these live streams, and I didn't have the setting correctly, so I was streaming vertical, but I was turning the phone, and then when you tried to watch it, you had to constantly play with the phone to manipulate it so it would go full screen. So I looked up on YouTube how to make it go horizontal, and they had moved the little button that lets you go horizontal. So as far as I can tell, I'm horizontal. That's what it looks like to me. You can tell me. Plus, this time I'm going to see if we get live chat, if I can see it. I don't know. We'll find out. So today what I'm doing is I'm swapping out the buckles on this. This is a 1983 U.S. military Alice pack, large. And the journey started with this, okay? So I think this is like a 1978 medium Alice pack. And it came with this type of buckle. Okay, you can see this fastener that goes on all the straps. So I like these a lot. Okay, you simply press it, moves up and down, easy peasy. Well, this bag came with the original type, which look like this. There they are, here. This guy. And these are real tough to maneuver, I think just because it's so old. When I was trying to simply tighten and loosen this, it was a big issue. So one thing you can do is you can lube this nylon webbing, and that'll let it glide easier. But that's a lot of, lube on here, and then everything's all greasy, so didn't want to do that. So these, okay, came off of this bag. And on this bag, it had these, which is a system I like a lot. It's just showing you simply push down and it moves up and down easily. I can show you on this bag. So I was very excited. So you're looking at a lot of work because I had to take that bag, cut off the buckles, which is tricky because you have to know where to cut it in the right place. Because if you want to then re-sew it, reattach it, you've got to have room to get it underneath the foot of the sewing machine so I can, make a new stitch. So I had to play with that. Where do I cut it to then allow me to put it under the foot and stitch it? So I spent, I don't know, say, 30 minutes taking this apart. So I took these off of here. Then I've got to come here, cut all these off, and then you can see I've replaced them here. So I was all excited. I put the old ones on that one, new ones on this one. And what it turns out is that these have little feet, you could call them that. Basically, it's the top here. See if you can pick that up. This edge right here. And I bet if you were in the military and you use these, I bet you money that you know about this. So this little edge here dug into some of my equipment. And I realized right away, this is, with the simple wearing of it, this is gonna go right through something valuable. It's gonna go through this nylon. It basically pierced my sleeping mat. So I was all excited, strapped it all down, put tension on it, and I was looking at it, and I said, that looks weird, because this was buried, in the sleeping mat. So I released some tension, and sure enough, these little wings had dug right in and cut. I've got it here somewhere. This thermarest that I run, these are extremely tough, but they're no match for a solid piece of metal that's basically like a little razor blade. So it pierced right into this, made 2 cuts. So I go, man, that's not going to work. Now you've all seen when people upgrade these, one of the first things they do is they add modern buckles. Okay, here. You can see that modern buckle. And I didn't want to do that. I like original things. But I'm also not going to have my gear get ruined. And I guarantee you those little wings are going to rub right through this nylon eventually. So, I'm buckles. They have just arrived. And these are made in the USA. So I feel good putting made in the USA stuff, made in the USA bag. I don't like getting cheap junk from China. So I'm excited. So today what I've got to do to get this bag underneath the sewing machine, it's got to be stripped down to its core, right? If not, if it's got all this gear on it, maneuvering it and trying to get it on the machine is much more difficult. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strip this bag down, and then I'll move over to the sewing machine and begin replacing these. I think there's 8 total, okay? So we got 2 here on the main tensioning straps. Then we've got 1, 2, 3 on the pockets. Then there's 1 inside where the radio pouch is. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I've got 2 down below, which is where the thermarest attaches to, right? It piggybacks onto the bottom of the bag here. So we got 8 of them. And these were a great deal, made in the USA. They're not official Fastex. It's from another company. But I've checked them. I mean, they seem extremely well made to me. So let's start stripping this bag down. People have been asking me about this little guy. I'm actually going to try and find the manufacturer. These are just little Halloween decorations. I think they have lights on them when they come. And then I've simply ripped off the legs and the other little parts on it. And this little guy lives here on the bag. So I'm trying to find him, because this is a nice heavy duty plastic, rubber, real flexible. But it's just an old thing that started in, I don't even know, high school or something. Just a Halloween little skeleton. Used to be in the old days, we would hang these things like this from our vehicles. Okay, this is in the 1980s. And the real popular one was they would have the ball sack from either a rabbit or a deer, and those would be hung on stuff. I don't know. It's a very caveman-like thing to do, but that's what these little guys are. So you'll see them on my pack and my gear. So we'll start stripping this down. These are pace beads, if you know what these are. This is to keep your distance approximately, so you have an idea as you're traveling. You know that this equals a certain distance, this drops down, you keep dropping them as you're moving, and then up here you reset it. You can look up any video on pace beads. A lot of people call them ranger bands, but I've been told by ranger friends that they don't like that. So they're just pace beads. I made these myself. This is a Celtic knot. It's a really interesting knot. This is just paracord. And you basically learn this knot. It's like a pretzel, basically. It's really interesting. You make this, maybe I'll make one for you. But it's this real intricate thing, and it creates little balls. And so here's a use for them right here. So we'll remove that, pace beads. On the sides here, you can see I run these are World War II, vintage, real ones, canteen holder, and then this is just a modern plastic canteen. These are old, actually, 1976. So that's right after Vietnam. And I've done videos about water systems and such. I just bleach the hell out of them, soap them, leave them out in the sun, because you never know what's been done inside of these. So to drink out of them, I highly recommend bleach, hot water, soap, and sun. But I use them, no problem. Never gotten sick or anything. So if you're going to take these off, take the canteen out first. Gives you a little flexibility. And these take a while. These are just the old hooks, okay? So you have to learn how to manipulate it. Once you get it down, they come out pretty easily. It's always a little awkward. Try not to block the shot, but get this guy off. You can see this is the old connection. So when you're looking at old gear, you'll see, even on this Alice pack, this is 1983, here on the webbing it's got these little rivets. So you'll see rivets all over older gear, and that's to accept these. And they work beautifully. I believe this is a 1942. On old gear like this, it's very difficult sometimes because they were stamped with ink. And after so many years of use and sunlight, that ink can be extremely difficult to read and make out. But real lightweight, doesn't have all that shit on it, you know, pockets, and I don't like that. And it's lined with wool. You can see it. That looks just like when you get the surplus military gloves. It's just they've taken all kinds of remnants of wool and made new wool. It's got these beautiful, look at this, how beautiful. So this comes over here, listen to this. Bulletproof. So I run two of these, one on each side. So that one comes off. Got my gloves on a carabiner. So whenever you get gloves, what I highly recommend is check the glove before you purchase it and look and see if it has a rivet here, some way to attach a small piece of gutted paracord. That way you can attach it to a carabiner and keep that on the ready on your bag somewhere where you can get to it right away. Because your gloves are something that you're going to touch a lot. You'll see in this upcoming video, I'm doing this whole series on, it's basically geez, I don't even know if it's going to be 18 videos or 28 videos total. And it's a Udemy Skillshare type thing. So basically I'll have this whole series and you can go on and purchase the series. I think it's $19.99. I believe that's what it is. And then you get access to all these how-to videos. So I talk about, hasn't been filmed yet. It's all ready to go. Just got to wait for the weather to change and get up in the woods. But it's a thing that I don't know who I learned it from, but it's the touch test. And you literally carry around a notepad. So say you're going camping. Well, you've got your little notepad on you, Write in the Rain notepad. And you make a list of all the things that you've brought. Okay, so your gloves, your water bottle, your chem light, your saw, your knife, your blah, 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 whatever it is, make a list of all your stuff. And then as you're up there, you've got to be diligent. And you put a hash mark every time you touch that or use it, okay? Basically, it's a way for you to learn what you don't need. Because we like to replicate home up in the woods or in your survival kit. So you bring the whole house. That's how you start off. Everybody does. Because you say, well, I need that I have to have that up in the woods. I have to have a, and so you've got all this gear, and your bag weighs, 40 pounds. And if you do this where you put the hash marks and you'll see how it works. You've got to be diligent. So how many times did I touch this? Hash mark, hash mark. So when you get back home after a 3-nighter, whatever, open that thing up and look, and you'll be shocked. You'll say, well, I touched my gloves 19 times. Okay. I touched my little, comfort chair once. I touched this thing once. And if you do this over time, you'll learn that, hey, I barely even use that. Why am I carrying this? It's that mentality. You got to discipline yourself, because less is definitely more, right? Every ounce, every pound that you put on this bag is something else that you could be taking that you really need. You'll see in the videos, but that's what I call it, the touch test. So those are off. These are flex cuffs. We make them ourselves. This is just a heavy duty zip tie. And when you make them yourself, you can get, a 10-pack of these for around $12, I think, of the heavy duty ones. So these are just flex cuffs. This is actually going to be featured on my OnlyFans site. You have to tune in for that. What else is in here? So here's our first pocket. Okay, we're clear. See what's in our center pocket. Wet wipes, of course. A little bit of tissue paper, Kleenex. Now this bag right now isn't staged. It's going to be staged real quick, because I am building out my winter kit and doing a whole video on it. I'm filming it in segments. I think the whole video is going to be close to an hour. It's going to be exciting, but I go through in detail my bag, what's in each pocket, why I'm carrying it, my weapon system, my sleep system, my clothing, food, water systems, everything. So it's going to be a complete 1-hour tour of what I pack and why I pack it. So right now I've just been moving stuff around and storing things. Love these Sharpie markers, super fat ones. You might have to go to a paint store to get one of these. I rarely see them this big, but this is, huge. But when you want to make a point, here you go. That's a whole inch right there. I carry these. And you'd say, well, what do you need one of those for up in the woods? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it's for marking people or tourniquets, basically. So if there was an incident and you were able to apply a tourniquet to someone else or yourself, that time could be written on their forehead. It could be written onto the tourniquet. That's why I have it. Or for leaving notes. I've got my Write in the Rain pad, or, what I like about those is you could literally find something in nature, a piece of wood, and you could write with that giant fat, Sharpie, an arrow. I went this way. Help. Whatever you want to write, your name. This is my gun cleaning kit. So this will be featured. What I have in here. Real lightweight, easy. This is a road flare. I've done videos on this. This is the ultimate emergency match. Okay, you can build your own. I've done it many times. There's videos on it where I build the UCO super matches, which is where you take these big UCO storm matches and you put 3 of them together, and then you take the heads of other matches that you break off, sprinkle those in, line it with some sort of a Vaseline type lubricant, an accelerant. You wrap it all up. You can dip it in wax, put it in the freezer. I remember Gray Bearded Green Beret, Joshua. He has a great video on that. Look him up. Super matches. Well, this is the ultimate super match. Okay. This is going to get you fire going. It's going to give you flame, basically. I've used this. There's a video on here. Again, I'll look through, see if I can link it. Pouring down, wind, horrible, cold, nasty, nasty, nasty. You're getting a fire with this. Road flare. little pouch, some little hand warmers, Leatherman rebar. I've always run the Super Tool 300, which is basically the big brother to this, but that Leatherman 300 got lost or stolen. Never know. But it disappeared, and I'd heard about this one because the biggest thing I'm looking for is a saw. And this is the rebar. Look at that beautiful saw. So it's just like, it's very similar to the 300, but I believe it's like 2 ounces lighter, a little more compact. So it's bulletproof, it's tough, and it's lighter. So that's why I went with it. I think I picked it up for $60, used on eBay. See what else is in here. This is some anti-fog OP drops. So on your goggles, any kind of glasses that you wear, you say I wear glasses. Anti-fog, good stuff. This I learned from Dave Canterbury, right? Self-Reliance Outfitters. Or maybe he reminded me of it because I've used these my whole life, my family, or I don't know who I learned it from, my grandpa. He always had these laying around, but this is a big brass safety pin. And there's a million things you can do. One, it's a tool, right? I remember Dave Canterbury was using it to close wool blankets. So you've got a wool blanket, you need some, clothing, garment, and a simple right through it. You're able to do that, but I highly recommend having safety pins. Put them in your gear. Hide them up in here. I think here I've got one. I'll show you inside. Everything in your clothing, hide them. This is a heavy duty one. Look at that thing. That's got to be 6 inches. Little deck of playing cards, miniature. You got to pass the time. I have these because I've been put on posts doing security where I'm out there for 16 hours by myself and there's nobody around. Well, cards have been used for years to pass the time. Just little playing cards. And by yourself, you can do things to keep yourself occupied. Put all the suits together, whatever. If you're with somebody, then you can play poker, blackjack. Here's a little magnifying lens. Fresnel lens, I believe. Never known exactly how to pronounce it. Fresnel lens. Pick these up, you can get a whole pack of them for, I think these were like $4.99 for 20, 30 of them. Just good, they're weigh nothing, ultra light, and you can get a fire with these. It's a lot of work to get it, but you can start a fire with, good tinder. If you look through my stuff, I've got videos of me starting fires with these, but that's in there. Again, this is all staging for putting together my winter kit. Look at this guy. This is a vintage military can opener. If you're not familiar with these, is this a P51? What do they call this one? Yeah, it's a real one. P51, if I remember correctly. Good to have. Steel. Okay, so there's our 3 pockets empty. You can see, look how beautiful that is. I just simply put a little pressure, press it. Love it. So I'm bummed out about swapping these out. And I thought, well, maybe I could come in and put something on these wings. But I experimented with it, putting duct tape or Gorilla Tape on here, filing them. I did file them and try and make them smooth, but that duct tape came right off and the filing didn't work. So maybe I could find this style in plastic, because I don't want to do the buckles, but I don't really have much of a choice right now. So I'm not going to ruin my gear. So here, if you can see up top, Look, there's another large safety pin, and here's just a normal one. Be amazed what they can do for you. Here I've got my bug net. It's an extra large, so this will go all the way over your bump helmet or your Kevlar helmet. Chem light. So there's our 3 pockets here. I showed this on a video, I think reviewing this bag, that the large Alice Pack 1983 model on these 3 pockets has a 2-inch hole in each pocket. And you can see that comes right through. Okay? So be careful if you're putting anything small in here. You have to know that it can escape easily. Some old Alice clips. Open up this drawstring. There's my liner. Just a 3 mil. This actually might be a 6 mil, contractor's bag, container. Goes into the system of lining the bag, plus it's used on the ground to give you a little bit of cover. Separate you from the ground, the wetness basically. It's not going to give you any R value. So let's turn this baby around. You can see this paracord handle. Did a video on how to weave these. Once you get it, you fly through it. It's real easy. It's just starting, it's real awkward. But again, there's a video on that. Up top here, got another carabiner. This has daisy chain of some paracord. Got some nice heavy duty black rubber bands. People call them Ranger bands. I just call them black rubber bands. And some normal rubber bands. I collect them. When I find them, free. I don't know why I have this on there. I just clip stuff to it. When I finally get ready to go, that stuff will be all tidied up, or we'll decide what goes. Here's my American flag. Beautiful flag. Made in the USA. It's a big pet peeve of mine when someone's got an American flag and it's made in China. Right? I think it's important to have an American flag made in America. So that's out. So now on the bag, you can see I've taken one off already. We're going to be replacing these buckles with these. And the cutting that I was talking about is here. Okay, so as this is attached to the Alice Pack, before you cut it, you've got to think, okay, how am I going to sew this? So you've got to plan where you cut so that way you can still access it with the machine, so the foot doesn't get in the way. So you've got to think, measure twice, cut once. That's what I've done here. So we're going to be replacing these, and there's 1, 2, 3 of them. It's on the pockets here on the bottom. Yeah. Now the biggest thing is, can I maneuver this and get it into the machine and work with it while it's on its frame? And the answer, oh, there's something more. Let's see. This is my Gorilla Tape. That can probably stay. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get off. I like to always keep a roll of Gorilla Tape. I say if you can't fix it with Gorilla Tape and zip ties, you're basically fucked. So that lives here. So the question is, can I get away with working on the machine with the frame still on? If I take the frame off, it's only going to take me, a minute. But then I got to take it off. Oh yeah, I'm touching this right now. This is like a razor blade down here. And again, I played with this, trying to think of ways that I could protect that. not happening. So we might as well just take it off. It's great practice. I've taken these on and off how many times in my life? I don't know. Dozens and dozens. But it's important. So if you've got one of these, you're going to run an Alice pack, take this off. Take it off, put it back on. Take it off, put it back on. Just get used to it, because you may need to alter things on the fly. So you need to know. It's extremely simple. I mean, it's pretty hard to mess up. But you want to know how to get this off and how to put it back on. Because the Alice pack with this frame was designed to do a lot of different things. It's a fascinating history. Go on YouTube and look up the history of the Alice pack, everything that went into it, the thought. But there's all different ways that you can configure these. So here's the frame. It's only connected in, 4 spots. And now we have the Alice pack. So this will enable me, with it off the frame, to get in there and maneuver it so that way I can sew it easily. If you've seen my video on the Alice pack, just a quick little review on it, you know it's my favorite pack. I think it's the best pack that's ever been made, in my opinion. You can talk to people that have been in the military who even now are running these, right? Some companies, I believe, are reproducing them now, modern. And I know there's knockoffs, cheap ones. Be careful what you're getting. But I believe there's a US company that's reproducing them. And they have the buckles. I don't want to go with these buckles, but I am. Because sometimes you got to go, hey. If you've ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you remember, sometimes you just got to say, hey, what the fuck? So we're going to do that. But first, we're going to have a cigarette. Good time to see this Alice pack frame. See this real simple waist pad, kidney belt, all original. And then the magic for me with the Alice pack is this gap that it leaves between you and the bag. So that airflow, when you're hiking around and stuff, that any pack that's sitting on you, on your body physically, is a big problem. Because one, it's all that heat and sweat that you're absorbing. So in cold environments, that's a bad thing. In hot environments, it's a bad thing. So the airflow that this gives you, the separation between your body and the pack, is just heaven sent. You can see I was real lucky on this one. It's an LC1. See if these are stamped. They're stamped, but the ink is worn. But these both have the quick releases. Okay, so basically this pops up, you pull the tab, boom, comes right off. The whole bag drops off your back in a millisecond. Very important. You can see here it's got the buckle here that would go around your waist. I don't use those because I don't want this tied to my body. I want to be able to get out of it using these quick release drop straps right now. Get away from this thing. Even though I love it, don't want to be attached to it. And that's why you see it's just run inside. You can see here, it's run inside the frame. All right. Let's go out into the yard here and have a cigarette. What am I going to bring? I'll bring my Dr. Pepper. And you'll get to see Samara. She's the big star of the show. Samara has been in every video I've ever made at this location. You'll see her. ¿Dónde estás? If you don't know, Samara is a rescue dog from Mexico that has an incredible story. Talk about survival. She's a big-time survival. She was on her deathbed. She was injured in an attack in Mexico. And she had some angels looking out for her and made her way up to Portland, Oregon. She's been here 3 years now. Took her like a year to recover, and she is the sweetest little thing you've ever met in your life. And when she needs to be, she can be a bad motherfucker. Right? I've seen her not get into it fighting, but guarding. Someone's approached this house, and she is on it. Rah! Turns into a savage. She's inside, I guess. You know that one? That's the old Viper alarm. If you're over 40, over 45, you'll know what that is. Huh, she must have run back inside. Well, this could be awkward, so I'll have to drop this down. Or I could do it from right here. What do you think? My tripod's all messed up. Pretty funny. But again, what do I say? If you've been following me and watching, what I say is that it doesn't matter because no one's watching. Even if there's people watching. I appreciate it if you're watching. It's fun to have people here. But no one's watching. You know what I mean? In the sense where you have to be worried about walking off camera, taking a break. I got to run to the bathroom, whatever it is. Moving the camera. I know that it can become a thing where you want to be professional and stay in frame and be talking the whole time. And you learn as you do live streams. This will be on this channel, this will be my 33rd live stream, or 34th. And I definitely can relate that in the beginning I remember sitting there and I've got to go to the bathroom. And I'm 30 minutes, an hour into the live stream and I go, so I'm bearing down, I'm holding it, right? Because how would I possibly leave the live stream and what am I going to do? Say, I'll be right back. Well, that's exactly what I do now because you learn with this whole YouTube thing that it doesn't matter. And if people really like what you're doing, they'll stick around. They don't care. Just like with your videos. When you're a creator, just do it. You know, the famous slogan, just do it. Don't worry about if you live with, it's called conquering your censor. If you live with, well, the lighting's not right. My neighbors are making noise. I mean, I'm filming this in the backyard in the suburbia. So people, well, that's going to be stupid. I can't do that. Who cares? Just make content. Get out there. Stop, don't make excuses up. You'll see it all the time. And if you're a creator, you know that it takes a lot to make one of these videos. Not a live stream, obviously, but to make a video, there's a lot behind it. So I encourage you to just say, it doesn't matter. Even when you get to a big following, let's say you've got 1 million subs. Does it matter? In life, does it matter? Stardom is just, it's all fake bullshit. I worked in Los Angeles for 17 years in entertainment. And I'll tell you one thing, you're hot 1 minute, you're not the next. Seen it firsthand. You're in a feature film, you're the biggest thing on the world, and in 6 months, you're nothing. You're back. I've had friends that on primetime shows, leads, they were working at the bar. Most people down there, not most, but a lot of people work as waiters, bartenders. That's where good money is at. And you're all rooting for them, right? Most people are from little towns, way far away from LA, and they've come. That's how LA works. They've come to LA to chase their dreams, and you've known them for 2 years, 3 years, whatever, and they finally get that break and they got their show and they're going to be on prime time and you're rooting for them. And that show comes out, it's on for 1, 2, 3, and boom, it gets pulled. And guess where they're at? Back at the bar. They're grateful and lucky. You always don't burn bridges because you got a job, you've got income coming in. It's all fickle. And it changes in one split second. Nowadays, you say one wrong thing on video, you get, you know how it is now, cancel culture. Boom, it's over. Entire career, over, done. But anything can happen. You can get injured, or in LA, there's a huge thing that, you're only as good as your last performance. When you're starting out, what did your last thing gross? Money. What did it make? If it was a bomb, it can be bad. Just like you've got music. You come out and you've got this huge thing and the album goes nowhere. There's no single, it doesn't hit. So it's all the same. And then even if you do make it huge, financially great, you've now made it. You've got money. Now you've got to be smart with that money because now everyone's trying to get it from you. My grandma, I think, used to say it. Yeah, she would say it. I think it's an old Spanish saying, making the money is not the hard part. Keeping it's the hard part. That's very true. Plus you've got your own things, whether it's addictions or, you're into stuff like cars, motorcycles, boats, houses, clothing, jewelry. It's all hedonism. So you make that money and you've come from nothing, you've had no money, and all of a sudden you've got $1 million. Well, people go crazy and you think it's going to just keep coming. It's just going to keep coming. This will just keep going. Well, there's the whole thing about, yeah, you made it and that wasn't the hard part. And you busted your ass and struggled and lived off Tom ramen and slept on people's couches, and you think no, now you made it, kind of. You just got your first little break. The hard part is keeping it going. Anyway. But even after you've made it in life, so what? What is it? Say you're rich, how long does life last? It's real quick. You're here right now, you're gone right now. It's that quick. And if you're younger, that's hard to imagine, but I can guarantee you that that's the reality. 1 minute you're here, 1 minute you're not, that quick. So, I'm in Portland, Oregon right now. It's October 2nd? And I think it's about 65 degrees was supposed to be the high today. At night, it's finally starting to get cold. I could see my breath for the first time the other day. And I'm pretty sure it said that it was 46 degrees for the low. It's beautiful. You'll hear me talk about how I hate being cold, which I do. So wool. But I love the cold weather. And the series I just told you about that I'm doing, I'm waiting for the weather to change so I can get up there and be in some weather. Versus filming it all in 90 degree, 95 degree beauty. I want to show it, and I need the weather to be able to show how things are in the weather. So it's one thing to do something when it's beautiful weather, no wind, 95 degrees, low of 65, versus do that in the pouring ass rain when the high is going to be 39, 40, and at night it's getting down to the, 10s. Well, your hands don't work anymore, right? So all these things that you can do so easily, well, the hands changes everything, right? That cold. The wet, now everything's wet, so it changes everything. You can't just dump your stuff everywhere and, you're good to go. No, now you've got to hide your stuff. You've got to build some sort of a shelter from the rain. The moisture here in Oregon, that's the big thing. Everything's damp. So now you're wet and cold and whole different beast. I hear all the time, people that have been in the military, they'll say, it's an old saying that if it ain't raining, you ain't training. And that's so true. So I'm excited for the weather to come. Per what I've seen on the news, meaning my little weather app, I'm showing it goes 10 days out, and I'm showing 10 days of 65, 70, 65, 70. So it's coming. But I bet we've got another month of this. I'm real excited because I'll have my vehicle back shortly. And then I'll be able to get up to my spots where I film. I was touching on that earlier, that I'm here in a city, and one option was to just do nothing, make no videos. One, it's eating you up, because you want to, if you're into this and this is what you do, you constantly have ideas for videos and you want to share this and show this, teach this, whatever it is. And you'll say, well, I'm sitting here in a city. Luckily, I'm at a place where I'm renting here that has a beautiful backyard. So you make it work. There's always a way to make it work. So you've seen these videos I'm shooting over here. I'll show it to you as we go back. It's just a shed. Now I can only shoot it 2 times of the day because the sun, we're dead 270 here behind me. So that sun, the way it moves itself, doesn't allow for filming in this area. I could do it, but it's not even worth it because the shadows and stuff that are coming from the sun makes it where you can't even see what I'm trying to show you and what I'm doing. It's all blotchy. You know, if you've filmed, you understand. So I've got limited time, little windows when I can film. So there you go. I'm extremely fortunate. I'm able to film, and I don't care. Yeah, I'm in a backyard. Does it change the, what I'm sharing? No, it doesn't. Since I'm sitting down, let's see if I can figure out how to see messages. I don't see anywhere. When I've live streamed in the past, they pop up. Beep, 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 beep. But I don't see anything on here. Interesting. Let's check the settings. No. These things, I don't know what they do. I don't even want to touch them. You saw that first one I did, the experiment with this iPhone, and I bumped the little button on here that muted it. So the whole video, I just left it up. Kind of fun, actually, to try and think of what the person's saying, read their lips. But it's basically me with no audio for 30 minutes. Pretty funny. Oh, what's this little thing? Okay, there it is. Live chat, all messages are available. Okay. So it will pop up here. Maybe. Yeah, so we're going to go back in to the new factory, the factory tour of the garage that I'm renting. That's it. I mean, you could think, well, you're renting a garage, living basically outside. Oh, that's horrible. No. That's a blessing, man. So fortunate, so lucky. I'll tell you one thing it is, it's a lot better than living out on the streets. When you're hiding in parks, and it's a nonstop job just hiding from authorities and neighbors and people. Literally, you've got to move, 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 move. You find a spot, you sleep for a couple hours, you've got to be up and beat that neighborhood patrol or the police or whoever's, checking the area. So you got to get up at 5 in the morning and you got to move, and then you've got to keep yourself occupied and basically find ways to pass. Now that it's winter, you're having to pass that 8-10 hours of daylight, and you've got to be somewhere that you're not obvious. You can't just, walk around, and where can you be? So there's all kinds of ways you can do things to keep yourself occupied. Obviously work, if you've got a job. Okay, that's the best. But if you're unemployed and you're homeless, what do you do with yourself for the daylight hours? Well, you can go to a coffee shop and sit there, but they're going to catch on real quick, especially if you've got gear. So what are you going to do with your gear? You can hide it. Well, someone's going to steal it, guaranteed. So you've got to have your gear on you. So now you come into a coffee shop with all this gear. You're probably a little dirty and stinky, who knows? Well, you plop down, you order your coffee. Well, they know how it goes, so they'll come up after that coffee and say, "Hi, we have a policy. In the whole day, you can only be here for 2 hours. So we appreciate your business, but we'll need you to move on." You got to move so that you can go to the next one. And how are you paying for that coffee while you're there? So you have no money. So it's just this constant game. You're being chased. That's the way it's set up. You set up over here and you got this cool spot. Well, instantly, the neighbor calls the police. The police show up and they say, "Hey, what's going on, buddy? Yeah, no, you can't be here." Now they've got your name. They know who you are. And now you're on their radar. So you move to the next place. Boom. They know who you are. Boom. They know your story. Boom. They're going to make contact with you. So it's just a non-stop game of hide and seek, basically. And that's why you'll see people in the cities. If you just saw that little walk around tour that I did downtown Portland. Well, that's a no man's land. That area where I showed you has always been like that. It's underneath the freeways. If you live in any type of city, you know what's under the freeways. Homeless people. So you can go into that because you're free. They do sweeps and stuff, but you just move over one block, you're fine. But then you've got a whole different thing, because now you've got the crime element through the roof. Your personal safety's at high risk. All your gear's at high risk. So then you have to create tribes and join a tribe, because safety in numbers, right? So that's why you'll see it's a very human thing. So if you're by yourself, danger. If you pair up and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 of you, and you've got your tents and you're in a little village, it's just how everything happens naturally in life, right? Tribes. Now you've got safety in numbers. No one's going to mess with you. You have your rules for your tribe. You'll see there'll be someone in charge. They've been there the longest. It's their tribe. And they'll say, "Okay, here's our deal. We don't want any flames inside the tents. If you got to go to the bathroom, it's over here." They have rules. Everything just, that world out there on the streets is exactly like the world that you live in, right? So there's a mayor and there's a governor and there's security forces, and there's, where do you get your food? Where do you go to the bathroom? All that, it just replicates itself instantly onto the streets. If you don't believe me, go down there and get on the streets. You'll see. Someone's in charge. A lot of times you'll hear the word mayor. This is the mayor. This is their camp. They're in charge. And they are. They say who comes, who goes, because then you'll get someone in that group that's stealing, or having flame inside their tent, or they're abusive, or they're whacked out of their minds on drugs and alcohol and mentally and mental disorders, and they got to go. So the whole group comes together with the mayor, and they've got their security, and they come and they say, "You got to go." I often tell people, it's like, if something ever happens, who do you think's the most prepared for all of it? Anybody living on the street, they're already living it, right? So when society breaks down, They've already got the repetition of those skills, hiding from the weather, right? Hiding from the rain, hiding from the heat, occupying themselves all day. How do they get food? How do they get money? How do they have relationships? How do they stay safe? They're living that right now. You take somebody who has never been on the streets, who lives in a home, who has a job, who has all the creature comforts, and you put them on the streets that first night, you're going to see a lot of fear, which is totally natural. It's an extremely scary thing to go from what you call a normal life to now you're on the street. And you see it happen so often. You'll see people in their cars. It's extremely scary. So, anybody who's already on the streets is light years ahead of anyone who's living a normal life in a home. So if things ever go south, they've got a big advantage. Now, the argument on that is that they're only living because normal people go to work and do this, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're, living off the scraps, going through the garbages, getting their food that they've thrown away, begging for money from those people that have jobs to give them money, And so if that breaks down, then where do they now get all that stuff? Because there's no one to scavenge that from. It's very fascinating. But I guarantee you that finding and staying safe, I guess finding shelter on the streets is the big one. Building up your little camp and sleeping and safety. They're light years ahead on that. All right, let's go check out this sewing machine. See if I can get one out for you on film. Oh, yes, Dr. Pepper. Here we go. If you smoke, you know that feeling that you just had a cigarette but wasn't enough. So you want another one. Chain smoking. All right, here we go. Oi. Oi. Does it matter? No. No, that didn't matter either. So you all know this. My little shop. My Singer. 4423. Here's our Alice pack. Here's our buckle. It's extremely difficult to film and show sewing. I could come over here. Yeah, we'll try that. I'll try and move the camera. When I've experimented with this, because I want to do a video on raid modding, which is where you take any kind of a vintage military blouse that has the 4 pockets. You remove the bottom 2 and put them up here onto the shoulders. That came about with the plate carriers, right? So this is all blocked off and you want to move that. I just watched a really interesting one on Vietnam. That's actually where they started. Actually, it was World War II. Soldiers have been modifying gear forever, right? It doesn't work, and so you go, if this was just here, perfect. So they would cut things off. It was the Airborne Rangers, I believe. The 101st or whatever groups with the parachute regiments, I believe they were the first. It was a whole documentary on how they had taken their uniforms and modified them. And it was really just to have access, because with all the gear on, you have no access to this. So they put them on. Then it went to Vietnam, where the soldiers would modify them. And they'd put a pocket here, one here. Inside, they'd have pockets. I believe it was about the LRP teams. So always modify your gear. Get familiar with sewing machines, do it by hand, whatever you need to do. But learn to sew, whether it's on a machine or by hand. If it's by hand, you really just need to learn how to sew in one place 3 times, how to tie things off. Easy. So we've got our good thread in. It's a nice heavy-duty nylon, military green. What kind of stitch do we want to use on this? Let's see. Length, we're going to go 4. Width, 0. Tension, 6. Center needle. It's just like flying a plane, right? You're going to do a check before you take off. Safety check. That's what I'm doing here. I'm going through the controls, setting up the machine, right? Because I'm about to fly. So the machine's got to be set up. These are the mini VS17 panels that I'm making. You've seen me talk about them. That's what the factory is set up for. This is where I make them. I just ripped out like 10 of them. This one was perfect and beautiful, but when I went to sew the buttonhole, I include these to create a vent, so that way in the wind it has a little bit of give. Well, my machine that I had that was dedicated for the buttonhole broke. So I have to transition this machine, set it up so it does the buttonhole. And it went haywire. And so it sewed a 6-inch long buttonhole. Then I tried to close it, and it's not something that I would send out to someone who paid good money for it. So now it's a piece of test material. And when you're sewing, you always want to, before you start your actual, sewing on the piece that you're going to be working on, you need test material. So if you've got excess material when you're building something, keep all that. I've got a little stash over here. Because before you sew, you're always going to do a test run. Check the machine, how's it going? Look at the stitching, your tension, because especially if you're on a machine, you're doing different things. You're changing up the settings, and you'll forget. I do. So I come back and I'm ready to go, and you go, what? Oh man, I left this for the buttonholes. It's on 4, it should be on 0. What am I doing? So I think I'm just gonna do a straight stitch. Let me move the camera. See if you can see a little bit better. Make it more fun. Let's see. See what we got. Okay, that's a little better. We're a little too high. Funky angle, but hey, remember, it doesn't matter. So here I'm just going to do a test. Let's see what kind of stitch we got going here. So let's see. I'm just checking my tension. See if the machine's functioning correctly. Yeah, I don't like that stitch for this. So let's make some adjustments. This is a forward back. It's a straight stitch, but you'll see here on the machine, if you can pick it up, it's going to come forward and go back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. So it's a much tougher stitch, meaning its strength is tougher, right? Yeah, that's much more aggressive, much tougher, because these buckles on the, actually I've gone through it, none of them are under that much stress. There's none of them that are load bearing to the functionality of the Alice pack. So it's all cosmetic basically, but you want things to be, secure. So on this, I need to attach this to the Alice pack up top. This bottom strip, you can snap it in, or you'll be able to open it with the buckle. And then so the buckle does not, right, so the webbing doesn't violate the buckle and just slide out. I've got to fold this over and sew it so it doesn't pass this, right? And I'm trying to see if it could be tough. I may have to turn this over on itself 3 times, which this machine, it's going to be, could be a little tight. When we get there, we'll check it. So I can separate this, bring up the Alice pack, I've already removed this one, so I know that it's going on this pocket. And I'm simply using, if you can pick it up, I can see that box stitch that was there originally, that was made in 1983. And I know that this goes there. So it's pretty basic. I'm just going to set it down and maneuver it. This is where it gets tricky. This is why we took the frame off. What I'm going to do is, a military stitch that I've seen is just, it's just 1, 2, 3. So one stitch here, move the machine, move it, another one, so it's 3, right? And that's how I get my stitches. This is all from military gear, so I look how they did it. And they did 1 here, 1 in the middle, 1 here. So I'm going to replicate that. So get this in. Set this up here. That is good. Set that down. Drop the foot. Bring that first one in. And for people that were asking, they were asking me, is this really heavy duty? Well, I'm going through a heavy nylon strap, okay? And this thing is going to go right through it. So I'm always going to start by turning the crank wheel towards you, never away. Always towards you. So counterclockwise, towards you, never away. You can damage your machine. So let's see how she does. So you can see it's not struggling, but I don't want to break the needle, so I'm just giving it a little love. Yeah, and so right away I can see that stitch. I remember now that I don't want that stitch, so I'm going to make sure that the needle is not buried in the thread, change my length. We're going to come just to a simple straight stitch, the most basic of all. Forward, and go back, forward, back, and then to end it, I'm going to stitch basically in one place 3 times, like that. Pull her out. We're going to move to the next one. Now this is tricky because I've got to keep this buckle inside of this loop. So I'm going to come down and sew the bottom one first. And you can see that I've got just enough room for this foot to drop. Okay? If it's not done right, you're not going to be able to drop the foot because the foot will hit the buckle and you won't be able to sew. So I'm getting lucky here. So I'm watching where this is falling. I don't want to damage my machine. I'm going real slow. So you can see it chunking along. So there we have 2. And just for shits and giggles, because on my research of gear that has this triple stitch, they put one right down the center. So we'll drop that needle. And it looks all crazy and rough. And, well, this is the reality of sewing. But you can see that this Singer 4423 went right through that. So I call it heavy duty. I'm happy with it. And if we come up, it's not clean, so I'll need to clean it. Because when you know you're getting old, you got to put on the glasses to see anything. It's all about finishing. If you're into knots, you know that it's called dressing the knot when you're done with it. It's all that little time you take at the end to dress that knot, make it pretty. But it's really important to trim this because all these little ends will start working themselves loose. Right? If you cut them, it doesn't have to be super tight, but there we go. You can see that. We've got 3. It's not beautiful, but hey. Ooh, feels like a bad hangover. So here we go. Ready? Put that in. Okay. Now, the next thing I need to do is, I call it just an end, a stopper. So I need to fold this material over on itself so that way it doesn't pull through the buckle. So let's see if 2 stops us. That's what we don't know. Will that pull through? I believe it will. So I'm going to go 1. So it's over on itself once, twice. We're going for 3. So if you've got any debates about whether or not this machine is heavy duty, we're going to find out right now. So it does fit under the foot. Ooh, we're going to see. I'm going to do it by hand. You can see I'm just simply turning the wheel by hand while I'm stitching. It's chunky, but it's going right through it. Let's see if it'll go right back through the holes that I just created. So there you can see that she's feeling it. I really just need a couple stitches in here. Yeah, okay. You can see I'm going to need to do that again because it's so wide. It's going to just flip on itself and rip right out. So, but let's just see if it stops it. That's the test. So that does stop it. You can see it catches. So we're going to bring that back in, stitch the other side of it. Yeah, that's pushing it, man. Let's play with this a little bit. Because obviously I don't want to break my machine. If it's something I have to do by hand, then it's something I have to do by hand. Let's check it. I think she'll go. It's just about being delicate, but firm. Does that make any sense? Yeah, you can see how rough I'm being with this machine. But she's performed. See, I'm just walking this by hand. And theoretically, when I put it in reverse, it should drop right back down in those holes that we just created. Kinda. I can see that as it gets momentum, right? So when the needle comes up to here, that plunge will go through. Almost. I'm just being cautious not to trash my machine. Okay, I'm gonna give it a couple more, one more pass forward. Here we go. Ready? I'm happy with that. All right, so now we're secure. We'll clean that up. Go for the abuela. That's good enough. Again, there's no load bearing coming down on this. This is a simple, closing a pocket, basically. It's going to be full of stuff. It could have a bunch in it, so it could have some tension on it. But it's not like this is, holding the bag to your body. It's not like a shoulder strap. So let's grab the pack and clip in. Here's our beautiful new attachment here. Clip that in. And the way this works is that you can see here it's got the 2 buttons, 2 snaps. So we would snap it in, snap it in. There you go. She's closed, locked, and secured. I can see, no? That's the same length as it was. Nothing's changed with the length of this. So if this was totally packed, bulging, you've still got that room to seal it. And there you go. All right. The color's a little light. I was thinking that it was going to be a darker green, but what I don't know is if I can see there's little circles on here. Doesn't matter much to me, but on the next one I'll turn that around. I see 2 little circles there, but I'm happy with the color. You know me, I mix camo all the time. I love it. So the color is fine, no problem. I'm going to address this a little bit more. I want that to be real secure. I just don't want it ripping out and then this thing flying off and all that. But there's 2 ways to open it now. So you can open up the buckle, get to your stuff, or you can simply unsnap it. And there you go. So now I rinse and repeat. I'll do that 2 more times here. I'll remove these with my scalpel. So you can see here. What's funny is I've already done this. So this is the 2nd time I'm doing it, or 4th, because I did it to that bag. This bag, so 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. So now I'm going to remove what I did before. You can see that triple stitch. See those 3 bars? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can see there, it was like a box stitch that they did, but different. They didn't finish the box stitch, so they just made multiple X's. That was their official military. That's what was there from 1983. But I know this triple stitch holds up no problem. And then I'll need to add them here and here. So basically, 7 more times? And I'll be good to go. All right, y'all. Going to be a lot of activity with this weather change. So I'm very excited. It's like a full-time schedule of things that are happening. I've got a downtown urban stealth survival overnighter. I've got this big one that's going to take me, I think, up in the woods to film it. Will take me 72 hours minimum to film it. Then the editing on that's going to take, a week, 2 weeks. I don't know. We'll see. It's all fun, though. It's very exciting. So, thanks for checking it out.